Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
With these signings of Aaron Judge and Carlos Rodon in the winter of 2022, the Yankees have committed over $500 million in contract value to just 2 players over the next 9 years. With Aaron Judge's contract, it's the second time in 4 years that Hal Steinbrenner has handed out a $300 million contract. Not bad for somebody who gets labeled cheap. With these new mega deals taking shape, I thought it would be a good time to revisit 10 of the biggest contracts in Yankees history and see how they shook out. Let's start with the first $100 million contract that the Yankees ever handed out. That was a 7-year, $120 million pact with Jason Giambi, the first baseman who had been with the Oakland Athletics. And Giambi was pretty solid with the Yankees. Despite never winning a World Series, he played in nearly 900 games over his 7-year contract and belted 209 home runs. He had morphed into mostly an immobile DH by the end of the contract, but he did have a ton of big hits, including 2 home runs in Game 7 of the 2003 ALCS and that unforgettable walk-off grand slam to beat the Twins. Number 9, Jacoby Ellsbury, who signed a 7-year, $153 million contract prior to the 2014 season. The deal was seen as an odd move at the time because Ellsbury had only really had one great season with the Red Sox and had a history of injury trouble.
2 things never happened again after that. The sisters never laid a finger on Andy again. And
Jacoby
never walked again.
I thank everybody for making this night necessary.
And number 8, Masahiro Tanaka, who signed a 7-year, $155 million contract prior to the 2014 season. I tell you what, winning the Tanaka sweepstakes was a ton of fun. He came out with guns blazing and went 11-1 with a 1.99 ERA to begin the season before suffering a slight tear in his elbow. And although he was consistently solid for the Yankees, he never quite reached that level again, although he seemed to turn it up for the playoffs. He was one of the most clutch pitchers in recent memory, and he's just one of those guys that you wish you could have gotten to see win a World Series with the Yanks. Number 7 is CC Sabathia, who signed a 7-year, $161 million contract prior to the 2009 season. CC was an instant fan favorite, and I even named my dog after him. He won the ALCS MVP in his first season with the Yankees and picked up his first World Series ring against the Phillies that fall. Noteworthy is that CC also signed a 5-year, $122 million extension just a few years into that contract.
Manager for the Yankees.
Number 6 still has that new contract smell. Carlos Rodon, who just signed a 6-year, $162 million contract. It remains to be seen how this contract will play out, but he got $1 million more than CC Sabathia, so if he can give us CC level production, I think we would all sign up for it right now. Number 5 is Mark Teixeira, who signed an 8-year, $180 million contract in December of 2008. Tex was great in his first couple of years with the Yankees, but he did have some wrist injuries that hampered his power in the latter part of that contract. He also got hurt by the shift. His batting average fell from being nearly a 300 hitter before he came to the Yankees to being a low 200s hitter in the latter half of that contract. His defense was consistently excellent. He was a great clubhouse guy. But overall, if you ask the Yankees, I think they probably would have rather had a little bit more production in that contract. But overall, I loved having Tex as a Yankee.
The luckiest man on the face of the earth.
Next is Derek Jeter. On February 1st, 2001, Jeter signed a 10-year, $189 million contract after 13 months of hard-fought negotiations. The Jeter deal was really a no-brainer for the Yankees from a business aspect. He put a lot of fans in the seats, and he was a legend in New York. But at the time, it was by far the largest contract ever handed out to a Yankees player. Jeter was the starting shortstop for a team that had just won 5 pennants and 4 World Series in the previous 6 seasons. And Jeter remained Jeter, consistent year in and year out, on and off the field, a great guy, and a world champion once more in 2009.
The most famous baseball player of all time, Babe Ruth.
Number 3 is A-Rod, who had a 10-year, $275 million contract. When A-Rod was traded to the Yankees after the 2003 season, he was 3 years into a 10-year, $252 million contract. That was the record at that time. But he opted out during the 2007 World Series after delivering an MVP season. That December, after some back and forth between the Yankees and A-Rod and A-Rod's agent Scott Boras, A-Rod personally called Hank Steinbrenner, and the two hammered out the deal. He had some ups and downs with the Yankees for sure, but pretty much carried the Yanks to their 2009 championship and was huge in the postseason. We won't talk about the back end of that contract, though. I never in a million years would have thought that this one would be controversial, but Gerrit Cole signed a 9-year, $324 million contract prior to the 2020 season. COVID robbed him of much of that season, and then in 2021 he had a little bit of a step backwards, did not pitch well in the postseason against the Red Sox. 2022, he set the Yankees' single-season strikeout record, but also gave up a career high in home runs. So it's been a bit of a mixed bag for Gerrit Cole. I see a lot of Yankees fans that are unhappy with this contract. There was that whole spider tack controversy. I still think he can be a leader of this staff, and there's still a chance that the Yankees can recoup some return on their investment if Gerrit Cole can help them win a championship or two over the next several years. He does have an opt-out in this contract, and there is some speculation that he may use it.
If you don't like it, you're fired. You haven't hired me yet.
And number 1, Aaron Judge, who just set the record for a position player in Major League Baseball with a 9-year, $360 million contract. It's officially being announced tomorrow. As of this recording, they're set to have a press conference. I suspect they're going to name him captain during that press conference, and if not tomorrow, then definitely in the near future. I think that he is going to still be a great player for several more years, although it's likely at the back end of that contract, being such a big guy, he's going to have to become a DH. I just worry about his body holding up, but I do think the Yankees should get 4 or 5 more really high-quality years out of Aaron Judge before you have to move him to that DH position. 62 home runs in 2022. We'll see if he can go after Bonds at some point in the future. I'll see you next time.
Ball game over.